Hey, it's Bill Gross, the LA Probate Expert.com, taking a look at the real estate market today. And today I want to take a look at what do some homes sell for over list price and others don't. In a normal market, so people are surprised to know, about 20% of homes typically sell at or above the list price. For the last year, in many markets, that number has doubled to 40% or 50% or more where homes sold over list price. In some cases, averaging 1, 2, 3% or more over list price. So, what are the key factors that determine that? Well, one of the things I find in real estate is I feel like we're in the pot roast business. What do I mean by the pot roast business? Well, there's a famous story in psychology called the pot roast theory as to why things are done. And I want to share that with you today. It's actually documented in Psychology Today, where a man watches his wife making her pot roast and she's trimming off the edges on both sides. And he asks, well, why is it you cut off the edges of the pot roast and waste that meat? And she said, well, I don't really know. My mother did that. When they call the mother and ask her why, she laughs and says, the only reason I cut the pot roast was because my pan was only so big. So how many of us, pursue our business like it's the pot roast story, as opposed to really understanding the reasons why things happen the way they're happening? And so recently, an article came out from a university on why homes sell above the list price from Baylor University. And they took a data-centric scientific approach to really break down the reasons why. And so I took that report and went through it in detail and want to summarize it for you, what the key factors are to determine why somebody would get top dollar for their property. And so here's what they found. I'm going to share with you as the key conclusions. Let's see here. I'm going to share my screen and we can read the key findings. Number one, the price segment matters, meaning a home is more likely to sell over list price where there's a house in certain markets that are ready to move in and are in high demand for that market area. So the properties that get bid up are either artificially low priced or are appropriate for that market where most buyers are ready to look in and take advantage of it. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is how do you get your property to be one of those properties. The second is, and this is the biggest factor, random geographical location matters as much as anything. In fact, the study said 80% of the variance of homes selling at above list price was based somewhat on random factors like this. If your home happens to be at the back of a development of lower priced homes that borders next to high priced homes, people might put comparables in the high price within a quarter mile and artificially not know in their zeal to buy a property that the house isn't worth as much. And so it's not that it drives the value of the overall market up, but one buyer will pay more than other buyers will that one time for that property. And this is a big factor, is the geographic location of the property versus other similar competitive properties. Number three, extensive agent comments in the listing increase the likelihood of selling. I know the opposite is true. We see listings with very little comments, and they often are on the market for a long time. Little known fact is by even just changing the comments in the MLS, it will re-push the property out to most search engines that are looking for properties. But the more comments, the more descriptive, the more information you have, the more likely you are to find the buyer that's going to pay the property. Here's a key thing I tell my clients all the time. It's not my job to take a poll of all the realtors and all the sellers and sell your house for a democratically determined price. We want to sell your house to the one person who's going to overpay over everybody else. And we want to write comments for that one person that's going to encourage them to buy the property. Number four is the number of pictures does not increase the likelihood of selling the property. Now, you have to have a certain number of pictures to get your property in certain websites, like Zillow, for example. But past that, once it makes it to those various formats, to those various distribution channels, additional pictures won't make the property sell for more. In fact, I find the opposite. You want to, kind of like a woman dressing in a short skirt, you want to show enough to generate interest, but you don't want to show too much where they're not interested in going further with you. So we want to have enough pictures in the property to get as much interest as possible, but more than that does not help sell the property. Number five is that it tends to happen early in the list process. Now, That's evidence of luck in many cases. Once a property has been in the market for 30 days or so, it's not likely to sell over the listing price. Certainly 30 days and typically even 2 weeks. So the time on the market is one of the key factors, and you'll either get that factor right away or won't happen until much later. Number 6 is agent incentives do not help the list price. I see agents offer bonuses, higher commission rates than normal, trying to sell a property. Better to take that money and make the property more priced more competitively than to give the money away to realtors. Many cases, the realtors don't even know they're getting a bonus because they haven't read the MLS detailed remarks. So certainly incentives, and this is the data speaking now, do not make that difference. Number 7, dual agency are less likely to sell at or above the list price. And I wrote, So an agent representing both sides doesn't seem to get the seller the high price. And I always ask, how could it? When I list a property, I have a contract with the seller to get top dollar. How can I, in a likelihood, also represent a buyer who wants to pay the lowest price and still get the highest price to my seller? The only time I represent both is when my representing the buyer helps my seller. For example, a particular client that I have a relationship with, they're likely to trust me to move more quickly, and I disclose that to my seller right away. But in general, you're not going to get a higher price when the same agent has both sides of the transaction. Again, this is backed up by data. This isn't just my opinion or my experience. 8, underpricing the property just to sell above doesn't lead to an overall higher selling price. We know that 8% of the time it's a random location. So trying to generate an artificial auction sounds like an interesting idea, but the data does not support that's the way to get the long-term highest price overall. The best way is to price it properly and then let the market take the factors from there. And then the last factor is interesting. This, again, is from a research report from Baylor University that the greater experience increases the probability of selling above list price. I think that has to do with agents who are experienced are better at getting other agents to compete, getting them to be encouraged to write an offer, helping them shape their offer, helping them explain to the buyer why the buyer has to be aggressive. I find my greatest strength as a listing agent, helping my customers, it's hard to explain, is coaching the buyer's agent to get the best possible price. Now, again, these are the 9 key factors determined not by me, not by some story, but by a research report in Baylor University. And I think as a result of that, we can look at those factors, make the best decision for getting you top dollar if you're thinking of selling a property, or from the buyer's side to get the best outcome on the buyer side as well. I'm Bill Gross. If I can help you, give me a call, text me, email me, or reply to this email. I'm Bill Gross at the LAProbateExpert.com. Make today your best day ever. Thanks.